Please welcome to the stage Jeanne Branthover of DHR Global and our esteemed panel.
Right.
Start. Well, I am honored today to be with these esteemed women who are highly intelligent, successful, powerful women leaders to share their insights and their thoughts today on our important topic, strengthening supply chain resilience. So we have with us today Barbara Humpton, who's President and CEO of Siemens USA. We have Minister Tewaney, who's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Republic of Panama, and Chair Lewis, who is President and Chair of Exum, Export-Import Bank of the U.S. So welcome, ladies, and thank you so much for sharing this with us today. So I wanted to start with Chair Lewis. In what ways is Exum supporting a reshoring of the U.S. supply chain and strengthening manufacturing hubs?
You know, Jeanne, thank you very much for that question. I can just tell you, we're just, as Exum Chair, very excited to be again here at Concordia with all of you. The way we are really putting a focus on our reshoring our supply chain is really through our Make More in America initiative that was just voted on in April. It is an initiative that allows us, for the very first time as an export credit agency, America's only export credit agency, to offer financing for domestic manufacturing projects as long as it has an export nexus. And then, of course, because we are the export credit agency of the U.S., it's all about facilitating those and supporting those jobs. And I'm sure we can get into it a little bit more. But we want those of you who are in this audience to understand that this initiative comes out of the President's review of the supply chain when he first took over as U.S. President, and wanted to make sure that we could use our traditional financing tools for medium and long-term financing to make available financing for domestic manufacturing transactions, because we all know we need to make more in America and we need to export more from America.
Correct. Absolutely. Thank you. Minister Tewaney, given Panama's strategic position, how are you working with regional governments and partners to strengthen trade and economic priorities?
Thank you very much, and thank you, Jean. Hi, everyone. Well, Panama is recognized by the international community as a very stable country, and definitely for us, globalization and trade has been very, very important for the Panama Canal. In fact, we are one of the countries that benefit the most from global trade. The Panama Canal gets business from global trade. And that made us, there are three elements, very important elements that I believe interact with other countries' region, but are very specific from the nature of the country. First of all, the relevance. As you can see, the geography makes the route very special, and it makes the route efficient. As you can see, I can give you some numbers. For instance, the Panama Canal serves as a commercial lifeline to the world with 40% of global cargo traffic moving through it annually, and approximately 180 maritime routes and over 1,900 ports, depending on it. The second aspect, which I would like to mention, is the neutrality. We are one of the few routes, special shock points, that is bound by international law to be neutral. We have signed an agreement with the United States in which the country needs to allow 24/7 the passage to any other ship, from no matter the flag. So for us, as a Minister of Foreign Affairs, imagine, I am the responsible to keep the foreign affairs of a country that is not neutral, but holds and is a custodian of a passage that is neutral by international law. And the last point, I believe, also I believe it's important for Panama, is the stability. The way we relate to the North, the South, the Caribbean, and the relations we have to the world. and the democracy that we have, let's say, venerated for so many years. It's important to keep the stability and remain and keep the business and the global trade open for business through the Panama Canal.
Oh, thank you. Barbara, and I believe some of these are your passions. In your view as CEO of Siemens USA, how should the industry leverage innovation and digitalization for business growth?
Well, thank you, Jeannie. And here we are talking about things, moving things, but we all know that in this era where we're addressing climate change, one of the most important things to do is make more at the point of need. And frankly, what we see now is this new theme of globalization. The idea that we can design and dream anywhere, and we can make everywhere. And so that's what Siemens has been doing, is bringing these tools to the table. And a great place to look for an example of this is battery manufacturing. Battery manufacturers today are standing up a brand new market sector. We're taking advantage of global digital tools so battery manufacturers can make digital twins of their factories, of their actual products, of their production processes, tweak all of that, and make sure that when they build, they can get it right the first time. No more experimentation in the real world, but get it right in the virtual world and then build in the real world. It's a transformation that's happening everywhere, and it's incredibly exciting.
Wow. And the three of you together are going to make it happen. There's no doubt about it. So back to Chair Lewis. How are you advancing Exum's regional and international priorities, and specifically, and this is important to me as I was a small business owner and obviously an entrepreneur and a woman. So specifically, how are you with small business and entrepreneurs benefiting from the expansion of U.S. commercial relationships?
Jeannie, that is I think one of the most important questions of the day, because it doesn't matter what city or state or country I'm in, everyone is talking about the support of their small business and their entrepreneurs. For those who, Exum is still like a little myth, we are America's only export credit agency. And so during the reauthorization of Exum in 2019, Congress asked us to accept 4 additional challenges. One of them was definitely making more financing available in small business. And not just small business for small business sake, we're saying women, minorities, underserved populations, LGBTQ, veterans, and more in rural communities. What people do not know about Exum is that 89%, almost 90% of our transactions are in the small business area. Last year we did about 1.6 billion. Wow. Of the 5.5 billion that we did in small business transactions. We're pretty much on target again to meet that goal. And one of the things that we have done, especially for women and minorities, we stood up years ago a minority women-owned business division that we're proud to say of that 1.6 billion, we did a little shy of 400 million, about 390 million in women. And minorities, and so on track to do the same thing again. We have specialists that are on call. All you have to do is go to exum.gov and fill in that applications, and those consultants are right there to help you. But the thing that is so amazing is when you talk about a local strategy, about reshoring jobs, the first question you ask, it's all about what happens in one's local community, what happens in their backyard. So to be able to be on this panel with Siemens, who we have worked diligently with around making sure we work with them around their supply chain, about those individuals that don't know anything about Exim Bank, but also to be here with the minister. What people don't know is that if you think Exim, think Panama Canal. We were right there in the serious financing of the Panama Canal. So that kind of tells you that we have a long history, and next year we're celebrating a 90th year celebration. And small business is a key and central part of everything that we do at Exum. It doesn't matter what sector, doesn't matter what size. We can bring our working capital, loan guarantees, and insurance products to transactions that you might have.
That is wonderful. Thank you so much. Back to Minister Tewaney. As a signatory, how is Panama advancing the mission of the U.S. Alliance for Development and Democracy, ADD, consultative dialogue on supply chain and economic growth?
Thank you, Janine. Well, that brings me back to the last element I mentioned, which is stability, right? When you talk about stability, we feel and we are completely sure that it's a result of democracy. Panama is a lighthouse for democracy in Latin America, there is no doubt. We have venerated our democratic values for the last 20 years and since we got a democratic government. It's very important, and it was very important for us to lead an association, kind of a grouping that share and cherish the same values. So with Costa Rica and Dominican Republic, initially we were founder members of the ADD, it's called, not for attentional deficit, it's development and democracy. And we knew that democracy brings stability, therefore development. Now, we added a new member, which is Ecuador. And with that, we have a very strong pillar, which is the economic and commercial pillar. The United States has shown great interest for it. In fact, the great news is that Panama and Costa Rica are part now of the CHIPS Act, and that's excellent. Very recently, we received the visit of Secretary Gina Raimondo, and she saw with her own eyes how our country is giving so much to democracy, stability. At the end, we can invest in huge infrastructures, we can invest in ports, etc., but the stability of the country is what makes you and makes your investment sustainable and will allow the business and the investment, foreign investment, to feel comfortable in a very, very stable ecosystem for business.
Wow. You make an impact all the time. It's amazing, really.
Thank you.
So Barbara, since you are in a very senior, powerful position at Siemens, and being that there's so many things, you know, you talked about the globalization. Thank you. And you know, tell us even more as far as how you feel that's going to make an impact on all of us, and what you're doing to ensure that the supply chain is resilient and comes back.
Well, at Siemens, we're working very hard globally to make sure that we don't have single sources of supply that present a risk to us. And you'll find us working in areas of the economy. It's the backbone of economies around the world, whether it's the power sector, whether it's the buildings, whether it's transportation, or my colleagues at Siemens Healthineers who are helping with critical life science and solutions that are really enabling us to live longer, healthier lives. With all of that, the work we're doing is absolutely critical. And so bringing these technologies to the table to make our work more sustainable is key. Now, this globalization concept is important in all of this. You'll see us investing around the world as we bring up additional manufacturing sites. I'm proud to say that in the United States, we've spent $3 billion over the last 4 years increasing our capacity. Our rail factory was out of space, full to 2030, and so we've just announced a new an East Coast rail facility in in Lexington, North Carolina. We're in Wendell working on electric vehicle charging, and we've added more in Texas. We've just opened up new manufacturing for solar inverters in Kenosha, Wisconsin, and so on and so forth, all across the country, increasing our capacity to build. And this is not only in the US, but for the countries who have come to join us here at Concordia, our capacity to make things is the essential cornerstone of our economies. And we at Siemens are bringing in the technologies that enable that.
Wow, that is very impactful and very important, so thank you so much. Chair Lewis, I want to come back to you, and if you've talked a little bit about that, I apologize, but I wanted to know more about the role and practical significance of the Make More in America initiative.
You know, it is so critical for us, because one of the things, especially around small businesses, we know that access to capital, I mean, everybody knows access to capital is the #1 challenge that our small businesses have. And not only our small business, but also our medium-sized businesses, if they want to grow and to expand. But especially if they want to grow and expand, and the products and services that can be exported. That is what, from a domestic standpoint, we're there to stand ready with them in order to assist them in their financing. You know, but it's not just Exum Bank. It is really also, as what the president and vice president has repeatedly said, it's a whole of government. And so being able to understand that it is not just Exum. We're 135 billion. We were reauthorized for that amount through 2026. We've spent about 33 billion of that. We have about another 100 billion to go. So, you know, I'm always out here on the hunt, like looking for those projects, those great projects. And so being here with Siemens, being here with the minister, I can already tell you, I see some things that we ought to be doing with you. But on the Make More in America, it goes right to what Barbara has said. You know, I and all of us understand that American companies, the values that we share, not just about our standards, our values, and our innovation, those are the key markers and that people are out there seeking when we're around visiting countries. And then when I say whole of government, to go back to that, it is not just government, not just Department of Commerce and Department of Energy and small business and USCDA. We have to be in partnership with the private sector because they're the ones, it is going to be that public-private partnership, that collaboration that we're going to all be in when we are competing around the world. And as we compete, we don't want people to just compete, we want them to win. Just like we recently did in a $900 million transaction that included a lot of small business in Angola around solar projects.
Thank you so much. So Minister Tewaney, I know we talked about Panama and how you play such an important role in the supply chain. And are there necessary policies and investments that you see needed to enable the growth?
Well, yes, today's world is a bit difficult because some countries are going inwards, you know. So, but we believe that part of the growth that the world had experienced is directly related to global trade. We know that poverty, even inclusion for women, is directly related to global trade. I think we need to work tirelessly to continue to remain a resilient partner, a resilient line, a resilient, let's say, area of transit for the world. And for the supply chain, I think the new events after pandemic have shown that the Panama Canal remain open, and it will be open for business. We have definitely huge challenges coming, climate change, definitely. But we are working on measurements, short, medium, and long term, to keep the waterway open. This is very important for the world to know. And again, stability and democracy, shared values are very important. Thank you.
So I am going to selfishly take the last 2 minutes, and I am incredibly honored and lucky to have 3 amazing women. So the topic is a little bit off supply chain, but it's about women. And I am a huge women advocate, and I love to empower women. And Barbara and I talked a little bit in the back about women, and would love to hear your viewpoints on, raise your hand, and both of you, as far as women in your industry and in general, to empower them to become senior leaders such as yourself. Barbara.
The advice I love to give women wherever I meet them is raise your hand. If you're interested in being engaged in our line of work, if you're interested in another line of work, raise your hand, let people know what you are fascinated by, because then they'll think of you when the opportunities open up.
Okay, so that's a very interesting topic, because not only, you know, you're a woman and you're young, also you need to prove yourself all the time. I think once you reach there, you should not give away the space that you have managed to take. You cannot give away. It's difficult, but you cannot leave it, because you need to bring other women also. So that's my advice. Don't give up.
That is wonderful.
I mean, you know, just to echo both of their comments, we know that in the financial industry, as well as in the export credit industry, that women, minorities, and populations are not as fully represented, especially in the senior realm. And so, you know, the advice I give to folks, if they, you know, they want to come to Exum, I say, you don't necessarily have to be, whether you're in small business or in as a loan specialist or underwriter. in our long term, you can still be in the industry, is because there's so many jobs up and down the food chain. And so I tell people all the time, you just got to get in, you got to just be aggressive and have forward movement.
Well, thank you for supply chain information, resiliency, what we need to do to make the world a better place. And I think every woman that heard the three of you today are going to be better off for it. So thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Timely.